we'll be discussing an important topic called normal distribution, one of the most important concepts in data analytics. Normal distribution is a type of data distribution that is symmetrical, bell-shaped, and described by its mean and standard deviation. The normal distribution is the most common type of distribution assumed in technical stock market analysis and in other types of statistical analysis. The standard normal distribution has two parameters, the mean and the standard deviation. The normal distribution is the most common type of distribution assumed in technical stock market analysis and in other types of statistical analysis. The normal distribution model is important in statistics and is key to the central limit theorem, CLT. This theory states that averages calculated from independent, identically distributed random variables have approximately normal distributions, regardless of the type of distribution from which the variables are sampled. Now, let's talk about how to achieve normal distribution on Google Sheets with some sample data. To do this, we'll use the normDist function in Google Sheets. The formula takes three arguments: the value, the mean, and the standard deviation. Before we go further, let's head on to our Google Sheet and do a demo. The data worksheet has already been provided for you in your course material. All you need to do is to follow along and practice the functions. Now, we are on our worksheet, and on cell A, we can see the height of 50 people in inches. On cell B, we can see the normal distribution, which I've already pre-populated, but of course, we'll be doing it together. And on cell C, we have the mean, which I'll also explain in the course of the lesson. And on cell D, we have the standard deviation. Okay, so let's take, for instance, we want to calculate the normal distribution for a person who is 64 inches tall. 64 inches tall. So the formula will look something like this, like what we have here. And I will explain that in a moment. So this is normDist function, and this function is used, just like I said earlier, to find the normal distribution of any given population. So just for you to see the parameters that this function takes in, so let's press equal to normDist. This is the formula right here. Okay, so you can see a question mark just beside it. So let's click on the question mark, and when we click on the question mark, it tells us the parameters that this formula takes in: X, the mean, it takes in the standard deviation, and also cumulative. But we need more explanation on this. So for us to get more information about these parameters, let's click on this drop down, which says expand details. Okay, so now let's click on this drop down that says expand details. Basically, we just want to learn more about this function called normDist, which is used to get the normal distribution of a given data or a population sample. So we can see that from Google Sheets documentation of this function, we can see the parameter, it takes in X, and X is the input to the normal distribution function, the mean, which is the mean of the normal distribution function. We have the standard deviation and cumulative. So cumulative is whether to use the normal cumulative distribution function rather than the distribution function. So that takes in a true or false argument. So now that we are clear on what the normal distribution function does, so let's populate it. So we need to get the mean of these heights of our data. We also need to get the standard deviation before we proceed. Good? Okay, so let's just clear this normal distribution and let's get the mean of our data. So to get the mean, just like we've learned in previous lessons, to get the mean, we use a formula called average. And we can click on the question mark also to get more details about what this average function does. and average just takes in value 1. I mean, it could be a range or it could be a group of cells. So in this particular example, we need to get the average of the height of the 50 people that we are using for this data. So you just hold Ctrl+Shift, arrow down, it selects everything, then you close the brackets and hit enter. Good. So now we can see the average, right? Good. So we also need to get the standard deviation. Remember, the norm_dist function takes in x, it takes in the mean, and it takes in the standard deviation. So, like I said earlier, the first row, which is cell 2, has already been populated for you, but we're also going to do it together. So, to get standard deviation, we use a formula called STDEV, so which is just short form for standard deviation on Google Sheets. So we click STDEV. Google Sheet Intelligence automatically tries to complete the formula for you. So if it matches what you want to, the function you want to use, you can just click on tab. If it doesn't, just continue to press the formula by yourself manually. Good. So we have standard deviation here, and it takes in value 1. And value 1, like I said, can be a range of cells, and it can also be probably a single cell, depending on what applies to the data in question. So just like we did earlier, we click on the first cell and Ctrl+Shift down, right? We close the brackets, we hit enter. Good. So that gives us the standard deviation. So, and I mean, this value looks so long, so let's just round it up to let's round it up to 1 decimal place value. Okay, so we have 14.6. So good. Now that we have all the variables required for us to calculate the normal distribution, so now we can go ahead. Remember the question we are trying to answer, which is for us to calculate the normal distribution for a person who is 64 inches tall, right? Who is 64 inches tall amongst all the data that we have. So let's click is equal to, and we hit in the formula, norm distribution. Don't forget. So what is x? X will be 64, since that's what we are looking for. So what is the mean? Remember, we calculated the mean earlier. The mean is 88.5. You can decide to put in 88.5 manually, or you just click in the cell where we had calculated the mean earlier on. So you put a comma, then the standard deviation. So the standard deviation, you can also press it manually, or you click on the cell that has the standard deviation populated already. So let's click on the cell, and the last parameter, which is cumulative, I mentioned it takes in a true or false argument. So for this, yes, we want the cumulative standard deviation, so we're going to put in true. We close the brackets and we hit enter. Good. So we can see now that the normal distribution is 0.05. Okay, so you can repeat the same approach to see how the normal distribution changes based on the height of the person. And that's it. By using the normal distribution formula in Google Sheets, we can easily analyze the distribution or the spread of data. And that's it. By using the normal distribution formula in Google Sheets, we can easily analyze the distribution or spread of data. And that brings us to the end of normal distribution. Thanks for sticking around.